Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And this is another paid request from... It was Penalty of Death Productions. They sent me the last film they wanted me to do a commentary on, which is a film they did, which is about these missing people who went to this cabin during around, I think, Christmas time, and it was shot like a fake... It was shot like a crime documentary. And so I think they made another one called The Third Law, and they wanted me to do a commentary. I think Fabio did a commentary on this as well. So the guy said I could use the footage, so you should be able to see the footage as I am reacting to it. I've never seen this before. But thank you for that. For those interested, requesting any type of videos, movie reviews, re-reviews, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, video game playthrough for an hour, or full playthrough, topic, tier list, ranking, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. For those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. So pause at the beginning. 3, 2, 1, pressing play. Let's get right into it.
The first thing that comes to mind when the word psychopath is introduced into the conversation.
Amber Heard.
Images of blood-spattered scenes of horror with a knife-wielding maniac standing ominously in the corner, perhaps.
Pedro Pascal.
And while these notions of the serial killer are not unwarranted,
Ouch. Fucking
it
ear.
goes so much deeper than just that.
So I think that was Jason.
Tonight, we'll be bringing you the bizarre and twisted story of one of the most prolific serial killers in modern American history.
Pedro Pascal. No, I'm just...
Penalty of Death Production sits down and brings you, our audience, inside the mind of a monster. For the first time on
Victor
television,
Salva.
an interview with one Marcos Rafael Ocasio.
Raphael,
Take a
alright.
glimpse of the inner workings of a
Different
psychopath.
Raphael.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the third law, the blood-soaked saga of the Prophet Bomber.
The Prophet Bomber. I'm not seeing like weird sex stuff, right? I'm just kidding. The Prophet Bomber. It's just that picture of the thing with the ton. Oh my god, it's a bomb. What is it, Bioshock? In association with... That looks like a bomb from a sci-fi movie. Farinelli Films. It just looks like something from Bioshock.
It's my personal belief that there was just a festering hatred deep down
Ben
that just
Schmidt.
kept growing and growing inside Marcos.
Mysterious, bomb. Multiple cities.
Michael believed that Newton was a prophet. He believed that for every action, there was an equal and opposite reaction.
Strikes yet another target. Fear rises across country. Bomber strikes.
Yeah, I of course heard of this psycho that was bombing different cities, but at that point wasn't following the case all that closely.
So a guy bombing Syrians murdered hundreds in bombs. I'm intrigued.
I knew no matter what, I was gonna catch this son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. Just son of a bitch. Welcome to 24. Where's Kiefer Sutherland? The third law. The third son of a bitch. The third son bitch. Okay. Directed by Chris J. Lara and Michael Bay. Okay, yeah, I think this is the guy who sent me the request. This guy, because I think that was his picture username, and he was in the last film I did a commentary on. Dude, he's the bomber. Man, back in the day, I remember color bars.
Do I consider myself a psychopath?
Yes.
Well, from what I've been told, I mean, I guess I pass all the sniff tests, right? But you know what I will say is that I don't process information the same way a quote unquote normal person does. If that makes any sense.
The public has a very Hollywood view of what a psychopath actually is. For starters, there's an incredibly small minority of psychopaths that are actual violent offenders. In fact, most psychopaths are just regular, law-abiding citizens just like anybody else. Of course, there's spectrums and variances of their behavior, but not all psychopaths are cut from the same cloth. They're as different from each other as they are from anybody else.
You know, but what's really interesting is that when all these prison doctors, they want to really get down to the nitty-gritty of what makes a guy like me tick, right? But what they don't realize is they're asking the wrong questions. If I'm bored with you, right, I'm going to give you the standard stock answer, or more or less what you want to hear, all right? You want to know my true origin, you got to ask the right questions. You got to know where to begin, all right? You got to start at home. And for me, anyway, it starts with dear old dad.
December 1974. Okay. Uh-oh. Rico Suave. Okay. From the land of Rico Suave. Alright.
The story of the Prophet Bomber begins all the way back in the year 1974 with his father, one Alejandro Jose Ocasio. Alejandro and his brother Miguel were as close as two brothers could possibly be. They both grew
Wonder
up
if these are
comfortably
pictures
in
of his
wealthy
actual dad
parts
that
of
they
San Juan,
used.
Puerto Rico. The boy's father, Gaspar Ocasio, was a successful businessman who specialized in the imports and exports
Like
of
his
tobacco,
family and all that.
cigars, and gourmet wine.
What?
But there were rumors and whisperings of much darker dealings.
Welcome to the
Gaspar
Godfather.
was allegedly a high-ranking member of the Espinosa cartel that operated within the ports and docks throughout the greater Caribbean. Reportedly going by the name of Don Gaspar, Ocasio was said to be a silver-tongued negotiator who brought in millions of dollars for the cartel with his wide network of illicit operations. As things go, Alejandro and Miguel's mother was not
That was weird.
Gaspar's wife, but one of
It
his
sounded as the
sisters
voice was
throughout
fading
Puerto
in.
Rico, the Dominican Republic,
Maybe that's just me, but it
and
sounded
the
like
mainland United
it was
States.
quiet, and then it rose like that.
It was rumored that Don Gaspar had as many as 40 illegitimate children.
Like the video.
But be that as it may,
Yeah, I don't know.
Gaspar Ocasio made it a point to provide financially for all his sons and daughters, illegitimate or otherwise, which is why Alejandro, Miguel, and their mother Isabella were modestly taken care of. The boys spent little time with their father, but on the occasions he was around, he seemed to show genuine affection for his two sons.
Then he met a guy named Tony
As was
Montana.
stated, both Alejandro and Miguel were known around San Juan for their garish antics, but Alejandro in particular seemed to relish in taking things a bit too far. Much like his father, young Alejandro Ocasio had a mind for ruthless strategy with the end goal of gaining as much for himself as humanly possible.
Yes, Gaspar Ocasio came down with vision issues and chest issues. And
It's like, calm down, dude. Like,
can't be cooperative that
yeah, he
fact
did
had been the
this. It's like, calm down, calm down. You're just doing an interview. You're not having a heart attack.
It was estimated that Don Gaspar was worth some $3.5 million upon his death. which was doled out substantially amongst his many progeny. Alejandro and Miguel received a total of $50,000, $25,000 apiece, which equates to nearly $320,000 in today's money. Split between both of them, the brothers used this money to carry them far down the road of life.
In 1974, Alejandro received $25,000, which was a considerable amount of money. He used it to ensure his and his brother's well-being, and he also used it to invest in his education, and he wanted to ensure his overall business acumen.
You know, dear old dad, he was going to be a success no matter what. He didn't care what it took. He didn't care whose feelings he hurt. He didn't care what toes he stepped on. You know, he was going to get to the top no matter what, and pretty much God help you if you got in his way.
As well as being successful, Alejandro sought something else that he saw as equally important to his identity, namely a sense of legitimacy. Even though he was well taken care of throughout his childhood,
Don't walk into the
Alejandro
light,
struggled
Caroline.
internally with being the bastard son of an alleged cartel member. His solution to this problem was by pledging full fidelity to country. At the age of only 20, Alejandro and Miguel joined the United States Navy. After basic training, he was shipped off to Lebanon during the regional civil war.
Alejandro fared very well in the military. He did well with the rigidity and the routine, and he used those skills to improve his overall civilian skills in life.
You know, legitimacy was a big thing for Pop. He wanted to overcome what he thought as, you know, being born as just a bastard rich kid. You know, he wanted something higher than that. And I guess the way he gained that legitimacy was by, in his mind, going off to war. You know, he wanted higher ideals to, you know, replace what people thought of him as somebody whose father was there one minute and gone the next. He didn't want that. And he thought that he would replace that, or replace that idea of a father figure. And in this case, it was, you know, Uncle Sam.
In the auspices of
Sometimes I close my eyes to
military
listen
life,
closely to the
Alejandro seemed to
dialogue.
excel, and
Because you
despite
tell there's
some
obviously very
racial
dialogue
biases of the
heavy
time,
for
worked his
the
way
kind
up
of
ranks.
movie they're making.
But throughout his rise, there seemed to be a cold and callous nature behind his very calculated moves. During his time in the military, 3 different reports would come to light regarding Alejandro's psychological makeup.
He's fucked
One
up.
thing that kept getting brought up when it came
He's screwed up.
to Alejandro and the possibility of him to be promoted. According to his psychological evaluations, it was consistently recommended that he not be promoted or have his rank risen at all. The Navy doctors diagnosed him with chronic antisocial behavior,
Great.
modernly known as extreme antisocial personality disorder. In
Fun.
layman's terms, he would be diagnosed as a psychopath today. But he wouldn't be the violent psychopath like a Norman Bates or Hannibal Lecter. He would be the more cold, calculating, cutthroat, businessman type of psychopath. Think like a Patrick Bateman, but without the blood and guts.
April 15th. Man, a month before I was born.
As the years rolled on, Alejandro seemed to go from strength to strength. Despite the ominous warnings of various military doctors, by the year 1983, Ocasio had reached the officer's rank of 03 lieutenant, and on April 15th of that very same year, his son, Marcos Rafael Ocasio, was born. 3 years prior, Alejandro had met his wife, Gabrielle.
You know, Pops met my mom. She was working as some kind of a caretaker for one of his subordinate officers or something like that. She was 16, he was 27, and you know, he thought he was doing just another wham, ma'am, thank you, ma'am, but surprise, I guess his swimmers were a hell of a lot stronger than he thought. So, before anyone knew it, my sorry ass comes into the picture. That's funny. That was the only reason that he married her in the first place, was because she was pregnant with me. So, as you can tell, we're dealing with a real top-notch chivalrous type of son of a fucking bitch. You know, I don't know if you know the
So he loves him.
behind April 15th or not, but if you don't, that's when President Lincoln was assassinated and the Titanic was sunk. You know, whoever said the universe was subtle was pretty much full of shit. So, I always think of it, you know, forget the omen when you have the Ocasio, right? You know, from the very beginning.
Is that when, really? That's when
I
Titanic was...
honestly don't think I had a chance in hell.
Is it really?
My personal investigation into this case, it would appear as though that the
So,
family-
I mean, well, yeah, technically April 14th, but it finished in April 15th.
There was very deep dysfunction.
So, yeah,
See, Alejandro
April
run his
15th,
family like a
people say,
military
yeah, okay.
He would deliver the most savage of punishments to his son for the most minor of infractions. And to make things worse, Marcos, from a very early age, although very intelligent, was demonstrating very disturbing behavior from around the age of about 3 years old.
The boy seemed to be detached from most of his peers and took an interest in violent behavior such as an unhealthy fascination with fire, cutting himself just to see what it felt like, and most disturbingly of all, the torture of small animals.
Jesus.
All classic signs of clinical psychopathy. To add to all the tension, Gabrielle's mental state deteriorated.
You torture animals and you cut yourself? Yeah, you're pretty fucked up.
Marcus's mother, Gabrielle, was a paranoid schizophrenic, and as you can imagine, in that household it became a breeding ground for psychopathy.
Yep, that's what he wanted.
I don't know why. For some reason, I thought he said in that asshole, but it,
Mentally ill woman that he could control.
they said household. But for some, with his accent, I thought he said in that asshole. Sorry. So, at least she's watching TV, I
Alejandro
guess.
Ocasio, you know, he didn't
On that
have
bed.
a family. He had cadets that he could move around a pegboard. All right, so just trying to paint a picture for you. He would have
Right.
different women coming in and out at all hours of the day, and just try to picture, if you will. Right, my 7-year-old self playing with a goddamn decapitated gopher in the living room. My mother is across the hall having a psychotic breakdown, and my dear old dad is boinking his secretary in the room across the hall. Yeah, the Brady Bunch, we were not.
Well,
It's not even
if
that
my
I'm
son was
sad.
playing with a decapitated gopher and my wife was nuts, I want to go out and fuck someone too.
You know, I knew even at
But the
that
boys
age
don't
that
get in
they
that
all
situation in
were
the first
out of
place.
control. Things were out of control in my mind, and I knew that I didn't like it. If that makes any sense. I think that's where my need to instill order came from. I saw my dad, you know, and the things that he was doing, and again, it's not that I was even upset that he was cheating on my mom right in front of her. It wasn't really about that. It was that the things I knew were out of control. You know, my dad was the source of the chaos, and he was the very antithesis of the order that I saw.
In the midst of all the turmoil in his household, Alejandro seemed to be oblivious to the immense resentment that was building up inside his only son. In later years, police investigators would discover disturbing drawings made by Marcos Ocasio when he was only a child. The art displayed extremely violent and graphic depictions of murder. But the most shocking part was that most of it was all directed towards his own father.
Guess, you know, can't be surprised. Hip hip hooray! Viva victory!
Did I love my mom? I mean, goddamn, that's a loaded question, isn't it?
Well, no, it's yes or no.
I mean, I don't know. Are psychopaths even capable of that? You tell me. You know, I can't give you a straight answer either way.
You say yes or no.
But honestly, I think I pitied my mom more than anything.
Well, it's not a yes or no
Something
answer.
that I can really break it down to. It wasn't anger. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't hatred. It wasn't any of that.
Was it Saint
It was
anger?
just kind of there.
Hopefully
I
not.
was just going through the motions, going from point A to point B. That's kind of what I can break it down for you.
Break down
It
those
was-
walls.
It was almost as if I was on the outside looking in. You know, I wasn't above it all. I wasn't beneath it all. Like I said, I was just there. You know, I mean, can you imagine asking a 7-year-old if he loves his mother or not, and he can't give you a straight answer? I mean, is there anything worse than that?
If Santa Claus fucked your mom while you were waiting for milk and cookies to give to him, maybe that'd be worse. Maybe.
Your environment growing up as a child.
Fucked?
I don't know, Doctor. Yes, I I'm not a robot. I get angry and I get anxiety sometimes, but it's not like anything else. It's not normal. I guess the best analogy I could come up with is like I'm looking at the world through glass. I know there are shades and blobs of color there, but nothing quite comes sharp on it. That makes sense.
No. I know.
It's my personal belief that there was just a festering hatred deep down that just kept growing and growing.
Do a lot of psychiatrists have earrings? I know this is a weird question. I'm just wondering. Do a lot of psychiatrists have, like, earrings?
Good reason. Marcos was headed down an incredibly
I don't know. To be honest, I've never seen a psychiatrist with earrings
But
on.
the true foundation
That
of
was
all this
a guy.
is derived from the fact that he just
I was just
really wanted
curious.
to kill his father. I suppose you could say that his father was the proverbial ticking time bomb, and the first spark happened on July 4th, 1997.
4th of July, 1997. Uh-oh. Fireworks. Got some bombing here.
It was Independence Day, 1997,
Oh,
when
that-
Alejandro had both his brother Miguel
That looks
and
good.
his nephew Carlos over for a barbecue.
That looks good,
By this
man.
time, Miguel had gotten far in the Navy as well and had a growing family of his own. But his pride and joy was his middle son, Carlos, who was only 12 at the time.
Hoop,
As Alejandro and Miguel milled about outside, Marcos and Carlos enjoyed a game of basketball.
hoop
During
dreams.
the game, Carlos was soundly beating his cousin, jokingly commenting that Marcos needed to work on his game, to which the other boy didn't take too kindly.
Marcos's uncle Miguel made a comment to Marcos saying that he was too skinny and that he should be more fit and athletic like his cousin.
Yeah, you skinny fuck.
Any normal child, these comments wouldn't be taken seriously. They'd be taken as lighthearted or just like a
Yeah, but he's psychotic.
But to the burgeoning mind of a psychopath,
Exactly.
Marcos took these comments incredibly personally.
Yep.
And in fact, these words sat with him for the whole night until he was presented with the right opportunity to commit the murder that he did.
Before Miguel and Carlos left that night, they ran into issues with the car. The engine would simply not turn over. As it turned out, Marcos had tampered with the brakes. Now, Marcos had a reported IQ of between 128 and 135 and had been working on cars with his father since he was a kid.
You know, my uncle, he was almost as big a prick as my dad was, so there was definitely no love lost there.
Hmm.
As for my cousin Carlos, I mean, he was just one of them entitled little shits that pretty much anybody could hate. So, yeah, no, I wasn't a fan of either one.
So fuck them all.
Volunteering to help out, Marcos quickly deduced that the starter on the engine was beginning to go bad. Marcos said that he could apply a temporary fix, but that Miguel needed to get the starter replaced as soon as he got back. While working on the engine, Marcos inexplicably tampers with the car's braking system. About 45 minutes later, and none the wiser, the pair ride off. At the first intersection, just a few miles down the road, the brakes completely fail, and Miguel and Carlos Ocasio were involved in a fatal sideswipe that kills both of them.
Well, there you go. That's all she wrote.
Did I plan to make that day D-Day? No, I mean, not necessarily. It basically just came down to I saw an opportunity and I took it. You know, I was impulsive. Yeah, I was 14. What do you expect? You know, it's not exactly normal for a 14-year-old to want to kill his uncle and cousin, but hey, I mean, I was having a bad day. That's basically the best way I could put it. You know,
I guess that's one way to put it.
that day.
And you had a bad day. Just hear that song.
There you go.
You had a bad day.
If it wasn't going to happen then, it was going to happen sooner or later, regardless.
That'd be fine. Just that
Marcos
song
was
just
headed
pops
down
up.
an incredibly destructive path
Of course
that
not,
there was
yeah.
no turning back from. At just the age of 14, he committed his first double homicide with the calculated cold-blooded murder of his uncle and his 12-year-old cousin.
Pretty much. Sorry, I'm not yawning because I do find this interesting. It's just, I didn't get a lot of sleep. I wanted to get this done
2
because I
years
hate
after the murders of Miguel and
I,
Carlos,
I hate when
an
people have to
event
wait for
occurred
requests,
that
so I
would set
apologize for
Marcos
that.
Ocasio on his future path of death and destruction. Due to his unusually high intellect, young Marcos had skipped 2 grades and was a senior in high school by the time of his 16th birthday. His high school was holding its annual winter formal, and since it was on his birthday, Marcos thought it only right to attend. Furthermore, he had been somewhat smitten with one of his classmates, a girl named Elizabeth Del Vecchio.
The Del Vecchio case is a particularly interesting one because it really showcases what goes on in the mind of a psychopath. You see, these people can't really process emotion the same way that normal people do, especially empathy. So when Elizabeth Del Vecchio turned Ocasio away, it really hurt him. So when his uncle faced such extreme treatment based off such minor words,
Oh, shit.
imagine what would happen if somebody turned him away in a romantic sense.
Oh shit. Oh
The
shit.
evening of April 15th, 1999, his 16th birthday, Marcos was camped out in an abandoned house, carefully observing the residents just across the street.
Right.
At about 11 p.m., he sees exactly what he's been waiting for. Elizabeth is dropped off by her date, the guy she actually went to the winter formal with. They share a kiss before he drives off and she enters her house.
Oh shit.
Marcos waits till about 1:30 in the morning before he slits open a small screen on a basement window and makes his way into the Del Vecchio home. He silently prowls around the house and takes a single large knife from the kitchen, planning on making this his murder weapon. But instead of going straight for the kill, he decides to wander around the house further for unknown reasons. In doing so, Marcos discovers Mr. Vito Del Vecchio's pistol and accompanying silencer.
Oh, great.
I mean, I had only planned on taking out my frustration on Liz, you know, and as such, I only brought a pocket knife, which shows the level of planning a 16-year-old has. But hey, what are you gonna do? Again, impulsive, unrefined. It is what it is. You know, I don't really know what was going through my mind. I mean, I had already had a body count, so it's not as if I had any qualms about killing or anything like that. You know, but you know, looking back on it, I guess it was just my narcissism that really couldn't deal with that kind of rejection. You know, but I was 16 again, very impulsive. What do you expect? You know, she was a good girl. She didn't really deserve what came next. But I figured that if I killed Liz, you know, I might as well off everyone in the house. Mr. and Mrs. Del Vecchio, they were just pretty much in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, what can I say? You know, what's that old saying? You know, young, dumb, and full of cum. That's pretty much what it came down to.
Young, dumb, and full of cum. Yeah, it's just that's one way to put it.
Planned properly. I didn't execute it well. But again, 16 years old. Say la vie.
After Marcos broke into the house that night, cold blood, he murdered Elizabeth Del Vecchio and her parents because she had turned him down for a date.
Hell of a way to end your date. Or non-date. Kill him with a starter pistol, I guess.
But just after he shoots Mr. and Mrs. Del Vecchio, Marcos notices something that catches his eye on the bookshelf in the master bedroom. Specifically a book entitled...
The master bedroom has a lot of smoke in it.
Out of sheer curiosity, he starts to thumb through the book, and he is given a brief introduction to the life and terrible legacy of one Michael Desmond Carr, also known as the infamous West Ridge arsonist.
West Ridge
Somewhat
arsonist.
inspired and intrigued by what he was reading, Marcos decides to set the house ablaze.
Great.
The triple homicide wasn't officially linked to the Prophet Bomber's crimes until almost 25 years after the fact.
Terrific.
Well, if you know anything about my MO, you know that I don't really believe in coincidence. You know, the universe is structured in a system of actions and reactions that perpetuate a rather infallible type of order. You know, my finding that book that night was again, I believe, anyway, the third law playing out in near perfect synchronicity. You can't get any more on the path than that. And of course, through that book, I was introduced to the teachings of Professor Newton, and of course, Mr. Michael Desmond Carr, who, I guess for lack of a better term, was my muse, if you want to call him that.
1899. Okay, we're going to give even more of a history lesson.
Michael Desmond Carr was born in the rural
That's another
outskirts of
time I did it. I swear it's like sometimes the voiceover fades in.
religious. They
Like,
enrolled him in a seminary college.
It's like, that's the second time I swear I've heard that.
He was also
Where
the unfortunate victim
it's
of
gonna
both
phase in.
physical and sexual abuse at the hands of the staff and clergy.
Damn, things like epilepsy.
In order to cope with his abuse, Michael retreated into his studies, adopting a fascination with the works of Professor Isaac Newton, as well as the pagan religions of various ancient civilizations, including that of the Sumerians, Babylonians, and the mysterious people known as the Hyksos.
Surprised not the Hittites or whatever that was. Reminds me of that bit in Ghostbusters
Michael believed
where they're
that
talking
there was
about
a problem.
who made the building.
He believed that for every action, there was an equal and opposite reaction.
Best-selling author, Blood of the
Michael was
Prophet.
also delusional. He believed that only certain individuals had a connection with Newton's third law and their bearing on reality. Michael really, truly had a strong belief that for every action, there was
Strong
an equal and
belief.
opposite reaction and how that affected everything around him.
What Carr realized is that our universe was governed not by chaos, but more of a structured higher power.
To be fair, the acting actually isn't that bad in this. Usually in these type of films, the acting's pretty mediocre, but I don't mind the acting in this.
Order played out in our physical reality because of the relations of these actions and their very reactions that dictate.
I want to look at.
Professor
It's still
Newton
playing. What was the other movie
laws
that
of
they did
static
before?
changing energy.
I did it last month.
They worked in perfect sync to hold the cosmos together. But the most beautiful part about it was, and I didn't realize this until later on, was that we as human beings had agency in those very unquantified outcomes. Very meta type stuff, but it works. And I guess the best way that I could put it is, think of it as a more fleshed out version of what it was.
Where the hell?
In addition to his newly found philosophy, young Michael Carr also developed another, far more disturbing pastime, namely setting fires.
Well, of
Carr
course.
had figured things out.
Should only be
He
setting
was
a
to
lot of
merge
fires.
his life philosophy with his pyromania,
Should've
and
known.
arson would be his instrument to add to the cosmic dynamics of universal order. Cold-blooded murder would be his way of influencing the cogs of reality.
Great.
Carr burned down the entire seminary orphanage on his 18th birthday.
Fun times.
35 people in the process. He would go
Fun
on to
times.
terrorize a nearly 400-mile radius within the states of California, Nevada, and Oregon. From the years of 1917 to 1955, a span of almost 40 years, Carr set over 300 fires and killed over 85 victims before his reign of terror finally came to an end.
Jesus Christ.
On the morning of February 12, 1955, a contingent of California State Police and U.S. Marshals tracked Carr to a small and remote estate on the outskirts of West Ridge, California. Carr would not go down easily, and a nearly 12-hour standoff ensues before law enforcement finally gunned him down.
After Carr was gunned down, they found 13 manifestos that were approximately 500 pages each, as well as rantings and ravings that would be the foundation for Ocasio's criminal career.
The Warrensdale Mystery is the one I saw of these guys. That commentary is up on the channel by reaction to it. The Warrensdale Mystery.
Oh my god. Please come quick. The twin pine bed just exploded.
Who the fuck is that? Like,
11 a.m., May 20th.
could she be more bored?
A terrified call.
Oh my god. Please come quick.
Just exploded at
This
20
thing just
a
exploded.
small
What'd she do? Take Xanax?
California. Police arrive and discover that 3 people have been
But the Warrensdale Mystery, I would say the Warrensdale Mystery, I was more intrigued so far compared to this. But I think for what it is, it's interesting to see, like, okay, we have a limited amount of resources. We have a limited amount of locations that we could go to. So, writing, editing, and trying to build up characters, it's a good way of using limited resources. Some people try to be overambitious, overzealous, and they fail spectacularly, like that Spider-Man Lotus movie, which is god-awful.
Well, I mean, it was mostly symbolic, you know. It was my first time contributing to the grand scheme of things, and I thought, what the hell, why not make it sort of special? So, it had been 104 years since Carl was born, and of course it was in his hometown. I mean, people may look at it and see it as corny and, you know, kind of on the nose, but I mean, I was 20 years old. I was still getting into my groove. That's the way people say.
Into the Midnight Groove?
Expired in the 4 years since Marcos killed at El Vecchio's. Gabrielle had died in 2001, tragically overdosing on prescription pain medication.
Well, at least she was watching TV.
Paradoxically, even though he hated his father, Marcos decides to follow in his footsteps and joins the military. Only this time it's the Army instead of the Navy.
Oh no.
He first enlists and quickly gains aptitude as a demolitions and explosive specialist. He racks up college credit and quickly gains a degree. Shortly after, he joined the Army Officer Candidate School, or OCS.
He must have had a tough time going through
Only 2 months.
boot camp.
Bombs his first.
If he didn't like that one, given that sniper remarked him, can you imagine the drill sergeant? How much shit gave to this guy? Even just one time?
Had a date with his future wife, Andrea Chavez.
You know, I know it's kind of morbid, you know, but I honestly felt a sense of relief when Mom passed. You know, she was too vulnerable a person. She was way too innocent for this world. And I'll always contend that she deserved better than what she got. You know, Dad passed 5 years after that of liver failure. And the one question that I always get is why I didn't kill the son of a bitch myself. You know, God knows I had plenty of opportunity. You know, the short answer is I really don't know. You know, I saw that man as basically the source of everything bad inside of me, and for the life of me, I couldn't bring myself to kill him. And to this day, I have no idea why. Ain't that weird?
Yeah, a little bit
Ignacio
weird.
met his wife when he was
A little bit
only
weird.
with his Marine friend,
Just a
Lieutenant
tad.
Nelson Chavez. When Ocasio met Chavez's 18-year-old sister, Andrea, it really set the sparks in motion. But, as beautiful and charming as Andrea was, she had a pretty severe history of mental illness. She was diagnosed bipolar, and she had schizoaffective disorder.
Great. Psych, you know.
According to Marcos,
Here's your Harley
sense
Quinn.
sense, and it made him think that they would fit really well together.
Yeah, I mean, she was my camouflage to an extent, you know, but I definitely didn't treat her the same way.
Well, yeah, your Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I guess I did hold a special fondness for her, as hard as that may be.
She must be nuts. You got ripped up jeans.
I did.
He had no intention of settling down for a lack of wedding.
Why? I mean, I never understood that. Like people wearing ripped up jeans,
He had a specific
like
way of
on
seeing it
purpose.
as a cosmic
Like they
wonder.
purposely want ripped up jeans. January ? 2011.
Over the next several years, Marcos had struck about a half a dozen more times in cities all across the U.S. His explosive devices were steadily getting more and more powerful. He had claimed about 45 victims, with hundreds more injured or maimed in the blasts. He was using his military status and the frequent travel as a means to carry out his deadly attacks. All the while, he was building a respected reputation as an upstanding officer in the U.S. Army. Due to his
I know. I mean, it'd be very tough to do it, but it would have been cool to see like fake
the newspapers
news
had come up with a
broadcasts
clever moniker
of these
for the
events,
serial offender.
like a series of news broadcasts throughout the years. Like this is from this year, this is from this year, this is this news broadcast, this news broadcast. But I mean, that'd have to take the year, what kind of clothes they'd be
Killer
wearing,
sending these
all the other stuff.
four-line messages to news outlets in the cities he was targeting. They kind of resembled the quatrains of Nostradamus.
Former U.S. Marshal.
You know, all these freaks needed some kind of nickname, so they dubbed him the Prophet Bomber. I sold a hell of a lot of newspapers.
Yeah, I always thought that name was cute, but I didn't have anything to do with that. That was all the media. I guess they needed something to call me, and that's what they ran with. You know, it's a little stupid and unimaginative, I guess, but it's kind of catchy. No, it had never once occurred to me to try to mimic Nostradamus. The whole four-line thing was just a way for me to kind of deliver my messages, you know. But since you know that I don't believe in coincidences, you know, actions and reactions and all that, I think you kind of know where I'm going with this, right?
In the winter of 2011, the men who would end up blowing this case wide open were assigned to the case. U.S. Marshal Aiden
Is that a
and Hunter
purposeful
Jones
pun?
were chosen
Blow
to
this case wide
participate in a new
open?
task force
Being a
to
bomber,
finally apprehend
these guys are going to
deadly
blow this case
and
wide
elusive
open.
Prophet Bomber.
Blow this bomber out of his busted ass. No.
Well, I've been with the Marshals.
Oh, we're
for
outside somewhere.
A year and a half at that point.
Don't crash.
I transferred from over from the bureau. I had about three.
Hunter
3
McDaniels.
years over there.
Well, thank God that Hunter Biden.
And you know, of course, I've heard of the case of this psycho bombing all these freaking cities, but I wasn't really following it all that closely. It wasn't until I got assigned to the bomber task force, and that's where I met Connor.
Keep watching the road.
Yeah, I'd been following the case early on, although, like McDaniel said, not super closely, namely because the FBI was still investigating. It hadn't been turned over to the Marshal's office yet. I was excited. It was a big case, had the potential to really boost my career, but it would turn out to be a lot bigger than we thought. The Prophet Bomber case would come to define my career in law enforcement.
To say that Marcos Ocasio was an obsession of ours would be an understatement.
Well, I mean, being caught was never something that I really thought about too much. You know, of course, I took as many precautions as I could, but I wasn't so naive to think that it couldn't happen, I guess is the best way to say it.
Mm.
If the third law dictated it, then of course there was little I could do to prevent it. So it's a little bit of a fatalist way to think about it, but that's just the way that my mind ran. So
Of course.
as the years passed and I was getting away with it, I just figured that finally the right people had gotten on the case, you know. Enter Marshals, Connors, and McDaniels, and yeah, after that things really got interesting.
As part of the task force, both Connors and McDaniels find that they work together well and feed off each other's hunches and investigative cues. They eventually made one of the first major breaks in the case.
Yes, it was one of those unquantifiable, you know, things where, you know, we just clicked.
Yeah, I mean, we got to the point where we were finishing each other's sentences when it came to details about the case. I guess you could say we were in sync.
Well, I
In
actually
sync
have
or Backstreet
a
Boys?
bit
No,
of
I'm
a
just kidding.
programming background. I majored in computer sciences in college before I had the bright idea to become a cop. Anyway, Aiden and I thought the best place to start was with the quatrains. You know, these are messages the bomber was leaving behind after he hit each target. You know, and before this, the investigators, they all thought that they had to do with the bombing that had just happened. But Aiden had the bright idea, a light bulb idea, to maybe explore what the if there was a tie to the next bomb, you know. So we went back and we started piecing that together.
What if the messages were clues as to whatever the next target was? So we took the latest quatrain and the latest target, put them together and tried to figure out, is there any connection?
The Darkwater skating rink bombing, in which 10 people were killed, was directly related to a previous bombing a year and a half before, in which a quatrain had been sent to the Swift Headliner.
A man runs through darkened waters, badgered, beaten, and skated forever in blood. A worthless reflection of himself in refuse and mud. Through the mind, a sullen centrifuge.
Okay, well, through darkened waters, the name of the skate rink was Dark Waters. Badgered and beaten seemed pretty clear to be a reference to Badger, Iowa. And then a man moves through a sullen centrifuge. The main attraction at the skate park was called the centrifuge. It was a eureka moment like nothing we'd had before.
Now that they had a roadmap to the bombers' future targets, Connors and McDaniels felt a surge of momentum. They gathered up all of the prior quatrains and started going through them with a fine-tooth comb. To supplement the analysis, McDaniels went back to his programming roots.
I devised a program to feed these quatrains into the computer and see what the algorithm would spit out.
So we took all the previous quatrains and we ran them through our system. And we kept getting hits on Michael Desmond Carr and his writings.
Yeah, it was part of my tribute to the man that had set me on my path in the first place. Carr's manifestos had all been forgotten, and of course I thought they would contain, vital information, as you can imagine. And this was just my way of getting them back out into the public eye, if you will. After all, what great thinker wants his works of great art and literature to just gather dust? Nobody wants that, right?
No, of
Atanasio
course
went
not.
through meticulously Carr's 20 manifestos and used that to describe his quatrain clues.
These breakthroughs, however, were only the beginning. Things were about to heat up in a big way. With closer examination of the crime scenes and, more importantly, the cities in which they took place, the marshals realized something very major.
Well, at this point, we had a ton of wind in our sails, right? So we laid out all the bombing sites on a map, and it just so happened they were all within a few miles of military installations.
Using the same logic, we deduced that he must be a high-ranking individual with enough clout that he could correlate these PCS and deployment points with these pre-made clues that he was creating. We then put out a wide dragnet and tried to talk to and interview any military or civilian employee of any of these bases over the past 9 years who also had any sort of background in explosives or demolitions.
June 4th, 2011. Okay.
Well, it was kind of a surreal thing to be that close to being discovered. Even if it was just, I guess, a preliminary questioning, as they kind of saw it at that time. Like I said before, I was never delusional enough to think that I was invulnerable or that I couldn't be caught. It was never that kind of thought process going through my mind. And to be honest, it was very refreshing to find.
I will
people
say,
smart
in all honesty, this is okay.
But again,
I don't find this as interesting as the Warrensdale. Because the Warrensdale mystery really felt like much more of an. It was a mystery. It was interesting. like the one guy that kept appearing in places and wondering, well, how did he appear there and how did he appear there? And the one guy who like somehow went from this place to that place, and he was.
Throughout the entire line of questioning, Casio.
I think also it felt like there was more things on screen, like the montage of the guy appearing in different places and
He had this sort of
certain people, like certain video footage.
mixed with a confidence. I didn't have any evidence at the time, of course, but if
This
you
one,
had
it feels even more of just the
there,
talking heads and then some,
We must
well, other
have
than,
questioned
you know,
100
driving
people. We
head.
had a few possible contenders, including Acasio. But, you know, we hit at that end.
Interestingly,
I don't know, just
Casio didn't
it's
give us
okay
any
so
days.
like, it's
There were
okay.
5 people that
It's
refused,
okay. I
so
just I will be honest, I'm not as invested in it as the Warrensdale
Well,
mystery
I
one.
figured that I'd lay low for a while.
It's not because of the
It wasn't
acting.
Quite as simple as that, of course.
And I
much
think
as I
it's
thought I was different
fairly
than
well
other
done in
people,
terms
it
of
was
giving
spiritual as I
backstory
really
and telling the
wasn't.
story.
I
It's
had the
just
same primal bloodlust that they
the
did.
story itself I don't
But I did my
find
best.
as interesting.
Kind of a bitch not to do what you did.
Kind of this
best.
bomber. He's obviously been caught, so we know where it's going. And it's just, I don't know. Like we know he's been caught. We know eventually he'll be caught. You're just waiting for people to catch up. And
things in his personal life would not go equally as favorable.
but it's not bad or anything. If it was bad, I would say it.
Silently spiraling deeper into her
I've
own
been honest
cave of
before,
psychopathy.
so
And just
I don't
as
mind it.
Joseph
Just I
and
don't know. Just
Andrea found out that she was
something
pregnant.
about it. Just I don't know.
You know, for the most part, Andrea served as good camouflage. But over time, I began to freely admit that she did start to mean more to me than just that. You know? And if you're wondering, yes, of course, I generally enjoyed my wife, and not just physically, although that was reason enough. As the years passed, even I noticed that she started to get worse and worse. Her mental stability was just sliding downward. And
I
unlike
keep hearing
myself,
stuff
I
and
was
sounds. I keep thinking it's like it's not.
But
It's from the movie. Okay.
you can imagine one day she comes home, she's more elated than
Not
I've
just the
ever
music,
seen.
but I swear I keep hearing other
In
stuff
my
too in the
arms,
back.
She shoves a bouquet of flowers in my face, if you can believe that. She just flat out came out and told me, yeah, we're expecting, we're gonna have a baby. You know, it's true what they say. Children truly do change a person. I guess even a psychopath like myself, right? I mean, my heart didn't grow 10 sizes that day, Grinch style or whatever. But yeah, I was pretty excited. Can't lie.
I think what is sometimes the music does a little bit of too much of that.
Things start to take a turn for the worse regarding Andrea when she tragically miscarries in March of 2017. This would begin her rapid spiral into major psychosis.
Miscarriage turns to major
After the
psychosis.
outpouring of sympathy that she and her husband received after they lost their baby, Mrs. Acasio developed what is known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy, otherwise known as factitious disorder. Basically, what this means is the sufferer develops a craving for the attention and sympathy that they had during a previous tragedy. So this,
I've
along
heard
with
of
the litany
that.
of other mental illnesses,
I
just
think I heard on
add to the
House
storm of
MD
psychological
on that
disarray.
TV show.
You know, I dealt with a loss as
Munchausen
pretty
by
much
proxy.
expected from somebody like me. I internalized it and I cubbyholed it. I compartmentalized it as I normally did with everything else. It wasn't anything too out of the ordinary. But while going through all that, I really failed to realize what it was doing to Andrea. After that, we conceived 2 more times, and she went through 2 more miscarriages. One to nature, the other 2 were by self-abortion, and it was quite unbeknownst to me at the time. So, as bad as that was, shit would only get worse from there.
Things would indeed go from bad to worse for Acasio. In the midst of his familial troubles, law enforcement would make another huge break in the case.
By that time, all momentum had drained from the case. The task force had been disbanded over the past 6 years. I kept in close contact with Marshal McDaniels. I continued to investigate more as a hobby. I may have bent a few rules to get access to some of the other quatrains, but that's when we hit pay dirt.
It was the bomber's fourth confirmed target, a law firm in Phoenix, November 14, 2007. 3 days after the attack, the quatrain was delivered to the Phoenix Star, right? And that's where our boy slipped up. He left his DNA on the back of the envelope in the form of a hair follicle.
The two marshals knew that if they told their superiors of the discovery, they might be reprimanded for unauthorized access to an inactive case. So as such, they had their own forensic specialist draw up a complete DNA profile of the follicle's donor. Now they had only to match it against one of their main persons of interest. The discovery of the hair follicle had leaked out into the press,
Oh, okay.
and the story was all over the news.
That's funny.
This prompted Ocasio to make some bold and desperate
It's like a fake
last-ditch
breaking news
moves.
thing. There's no dialogue,
It
but
was honestly an
there's a little bit
amateur
visual.
mistake, what can I say?
That's funny. I was just saying earlier, they have some news pro. We see a little bit, but no dialogue.
Mass murderers are all too human, you know. The ability to fuck up is pretty much hardwired in our DNA. So, what are you gonna do? Well, at that point, I knew that I was living on borrowed time. The walls were closing in, and
Living
the
on
only thing I
borrowed
could do
time.
was, I don't know, pretty much go out with a bang, right?
I'm not saying a whole lot because I'm trying to listen to the dialogue. It's very dialogue
Part of
heavy,
the
so
fun, but I think it fits here.
I don't want to talk too much over it
That's kind of what I did.
or miss what's going on.
Well, the marshal's office wasn't exactly pleased with our extracurricular activities, but it was also the biggest break they'd had in over 6 years. So they reinstated us on the task force, and we were on the hunt again.
You were quickly forgiven.
Working with renewed
I forgive
vigor,
you.
The marshals cleared almost every other suspect that had previously submitted DNA samples. The remaining few were either coerced or their DNA was gathered in stealth. By the winter of 2017, all previous persons of interest had been cleared. That is, except one.
Yeah, it turns out Ocasio would provide us with the DNA sample we asked for, just not in the manner we expected.
What manner was that?
The Warner and Lasky Auto Lot was located about 40 miles outside of Washington, D.C. The place was a moderately successful car lot that did extensive business to the surrounding area. It was here where Marcos would stage the first part of his plans.
I'd known one of the owners, a guy named Alex Warner. He was the cousin of one of my ranking officers. I did a little digging, and I found out that old Alex had quite a bit of clout when it came to local politics, you know, and he was known to have his way with a number of women that he fancied. But
Really?
you see, the catch was not all of it was consensual, you know. Basically, in layman's terms, Alex Warner was a serial rapist, so I thought, what the hell?
Jesus.
I'll do my due diligence. I'll do my community service and get a predator off the street or some such nonsense as that. But yeah, that's what I did.
Well, posing as a potential buyer, Ocasio prowled the car lot, eventually got the attention of Alex Warren. You know, he feigned interest in some older model Ford Mustang, and, you know, Warren quickly took the bait.
Well, I drove around 10 miles away from the car lot before I, you know, started engaging the son of a bitch in, like, you know, small talk, conversation, stuff like that. And before he knew it, we had rounded a bend near a cul-de-sac, which, of course, I had pre-selected.
Well, Ocasio, he pulls over, saying he needs to take a leak, and inside of 5 seconds, he pulls out a switchblade and slices Warren's throat, ear to ear. You know, poor bastard didn't even know what hit him.
Well, I mean, if he was a serial rapist, I'm not going to call him a poor bastard. I just call him a bastard. Fuck him. If he did that to women, he gets what he deserved. What, the car drove through a couple buildings too?
A late model Mustang crashes through the entrance.
Oh, I did
4 people
crash.
are injured at that time. Inside is one dead Alex Warren who had been strapped to the driver's seat. There was a quatrain attached.
Is this guy like Canadian? Is that his accent? Or very Minnesota?
Yeah, sewn inside Warner's mouth.
To sometimes he sounds like, and that's not an insult. It's not an insult. Sounds like the girl in Fargo.
Provided in his own twisted and brutal way.
These
And there's nothing wrong with that, I'm
rushed
just
through
curious.
Forensics and the phone and quatrain message immediately entered into evidence. 24 hours later, a positive ID was made. The saliva and the hair follicle were both from Marcos Rafael Ocasio. They had conclusively identified the infamous profit bomber.
Not more than 30 minutes after we matched the saliva to the physical evidence that we had, we made a positive ID, the burner phone rang.
My
Okay.
congratulations on a job well done, Marshals. I wasn't exactly sure how long it would take your lab boys to match the saliva sample to me, but I figured 24 hours should be enough. You now know who I am, so the hunt is on. You've got exactly 6 hours to decipher the quatrain and figure out where I'll strike next. But be warned, you will leave my wife out of this.
Okay, Riddler.
If I get word that your goons go busting in my door and hauling my wife off for questioning, the bodies will start piling up, the likes of which you can scarcely imagine. So if and when you manage to catch me, the fallout will be enough for her to bear. Andrea is not implicated in my crimes in the least. She's a completely innocent party. 6 hours from this very second. So tick-tock, Marshals. Hopefully you get the results you want, but if not, then I guess I'll see you under the stars.
See me under this.
You know, it was in the middle of all that chaos that, something really hit me.
Maybe call Batman.
I didn't really care whether I was caught or not. The only thing that was preoccupying my mind at the time was, surprisingly enough, I wanted to protect my wife, if you can believe that. So.
To say that we were scrambling would have been the understatement of the century. We had 6 hours to solve this goddamn puzzle, track this target, and catch this asshole.
We set up command center. And we
I
had
like that.
every
Just his
agency,
asshole.
FBI, ATF, Homeland.
I wish he talked more. I mean, I guess he wouldn't be professional, to be fair, but I wish he talked like that more. Catch this motherfucker. Kiss his asshole. This dipshit.
A haven of hearts,
This
souls,
fucking
and
idiot.
minds,
Fucking
separating a rabble
dipshit.
of sheep from a
Piece of
den
shit,
full of
you know.
lions. Look to the circle and
Fuck this
40
guy.
wonders and
Shove it up
signs.
their ass.
4 hours and 50 minutes into the ordeal, the investigators crack the message. They track it back to Haversville, Virginia. What's important to note, there's a bridge in Haversville that's called the Diamond Bridge. Now, the Diamond Bridge is upstream from the Limes Quarry, which is in an area that is known as the Haven of Hearts. Haversville is known as the City of Hearts.
Just before we were leaving, I had this sudden thought that we might be walking into a trap. It was based on his phone call. It was the last line that he said, "I'll meet you under the stars." I was winging it, but I came up with a little bit of a plan.
Diamond Bridge. Haversville, Virginia. Kinda close, are you?
The Diamond Bridge is heavily surveyed by a whole slew of law enforcement. At 9:30 on the dot, a lone figure wearing a long trench coat is seen walking onto the bridge.
The man then begins to cry and mumble. Agents approach and realize that beneath that mask, whoever this man was, his mouth was taped shut. And to everyone's surprise, this was not Marcos Ocasio.
They rip the tape off this poor guy's face, but he's just pleading and pleading and pleading for help. Then one of the agents notices there's a wire going down into his shirt. Turns out it's connected to a bomb, complete with active countdown and everything. With 5 seconds left on his timer, all these agents brace for impact, but it hits 0 and just says, "Gotcha," in big red letters.
So he's the Joker now.
Ocasio, freeze! United States Marshals!
Meanwhile,
I'm not sure this music just really fits with this.
the real drop site.
Marshall Connors discovered.
Yeah, I'm not
Ocasio
big on the
was
music. The
split.
music I just don't think
However,
fits.
He left a subtle clue. In this clue, he mentioned seeing them under the stars.
Because the music feels like you're trying to play like a Call of Duty video game, but I don't know if it fits with this.
It was a hell of a gamble, but it paid off.
Yeah, I underestimated Connors, and they were a lot smarter than I gave them credit for, or anyone for that matter. I had snuck onto Starlight that night. I bent down near one of the rails, and I started to reach for my backpack, and that's when I felt it. The cold barrel of a gun pressing firmly up against the back of my head, and pretty much realized it right then the jig was up.
My heart has never pounded as hard as it was right there. We drew down on him, ordered him to his feet. He seemed genuinely impressed, surprised that we had seen through his charade. But one last act of desperation, he reaches for the remote detonator. Then this shot rings out from behind me, right, whizzes past my ear.
And hidden in the shadows was Marshall McDaniels, who he hits me square in the wrist in a feat of remarkable marksmanship. So if you're watching, Marshall, damn good shot.
He goes down, blood spewing from his wrist, tries to get back up. I fucking hit him. Case closed. We arrested the profit bomber.
Oh, I most definitely gained a lot of respect for the marshals that day. There was a connection made, on that, not just on that day, but pretty much the entire pursuit that would shape my future decisions to come. Yeah, definitely.
U.S. Marshals and local police have apprehended the notorious serial killer known as the Profit Bomber, bringing his nearly 20-year reign of terror finally to an end.
Tonight on Crimecast, what y'all been waiting for. They finally got the Profit Bomber. God damn.
Damn TikTok.
Okay, guys, so I guess you heard they just called that Profit Bomber Gimp or whatever. Okay, I just want to say one thing. Burn, Pee-wee.
Damn TikToks. I hate TikTok. Fucking TikToks.
Yo, they just caught the Prophet. What the hell, bruh?
Who the fuck is that guy? Chainsaw Zap? Remind me never to watch you. What the hell, brah? We got the Prophet, brah. Yeah. The fuck's his problem?
Oh, how are you, Marcos? How's the wrist?
Can't jack off.
I think I'm going to survive, Marshall, so there is that. So we got you tied.
You need better security footage. Look at all the fucking tracking shit.
We're getting out of it now.
You need your better cameras for your
They say
interrogations.
confession, it's good for the soul. So is sex after 3 margaritas and a cigar. What's your point?
We want everything, Marcos. Plans, schematics, mock-ups, whatever else. But most importantly, you need to tell us if there's any more little toys in any other cities.
Again.
You got what you wanted, Marshall.
You need better. Again, you need better tracking for your
We kept our
interrogation cameras.
Left your wife out of it, right? It's time you give us everything.
I want to stranger you with my tie.
Touche. Barker City, Memphis, and Dodgers. You deploy your guys 20 miles in the radius of any of those bases, you should find what you're looking for. But, you know, warn you. My little toys, as you call them, they could still be armed and ready to go, so if I was you, I'd have my bomb boys at the ready.
Fuck. So that's it, huh?
Come again. I mean, we just had a mutual exchange of information with a solid basis of understanding. That is how these things work, right?
Maybe. What I'm struggling to understand is why a respected military officer would throw it all away for some psycho quest to, you know, what, please Isaac fucking Newton? Why'd you do it, Marcos? Why'd you do it?
I see what you're doing, right? You guys want to put me on the couch, right? Is that what this is about? You want to have some kind of a struggle session? I mean, I can play along. I can give you the cliche and trophy answers if you want.
Why don't you just give us the truth?
Why would they have the camera here? Why would you not want the camera
You ever feel like your life was out of
farther
So
this way?
This is why you did this? This is why you killed all these people? To feel in control?
Yeah, I don't really appreciate the interruptions, Marshall.
He doesn't appreciate
I asked you a question and I expect an answer.
Okay, sure, Marcos. Yeah. I mean, sometimes everybody does.
So when you have these feelings, what do you tend to do about it?
Fucking
jerk off,
work out, drink. I don't understand. I don't understand what you're trying to get at here. What's the question? I don't understand it.
You don't understand it, all right.
He says you're
Well, let me
fucking
attempt to
stupid.
clarify for you then, Marshals. So quote normal people, when they feel their life is spiraling down the drain or whatever, what do they tend to do?
Shouldn't these cops be telling someone, hey, these 3 cities might be in danger? At least one of them? Get people there as soon as possible?
Some kind of
At least one of
industrialized
them?
religion, maybe go for a jog.
You don't need both of them there.
Created their giant sky pixie, right? Whatever the case is.
Just hopefully the idea is that people are watching and then people behind the scenes are telling them to do this. Is that I would assume that would be the
Why
case
not
then,
ground
perhaps.
yourself in something a little bit more concrete, like the 3 laws of thermodynamics as explained by Professor Newton, right? What you have to understand is that my philosophy grounds that these 3 laws govern all reality as we see it. They're the linchpin, the scaffolding for cosmic order, and you know, the universe tends to agree with me on this.
What the fuck does blowing up innocent people have to do with the 3 laws? You're just another deranged, psychotic, fucking agent of chaos, same old shit.
No. That's where you're wrong, Marshall. I don't see myself as an agent of chaos at all. In fact, I think I'm a very staunch advocate for cosmic order, right? Because think about it. Our universe itself was born of violence, immense violence, in fact, right? So what you have to think about it is it's in a cycle.
See, there's the thing though. Do people talk this way, or is this more like theatrical, like you would see in a film, or like? Again, do people actually get in these conversations, whether interrogation like this or no?
Changing, which is actually, it's the reverse of that. You take the inverse of that statement, and it's chaos. That's static and unchanging. It is the very essence of dead entropy. So, using that logic, it goes against, or rather, the antithesis of the order in which I seek, and I do it through the original violence in which we were all created in the first place.
So, okay. So this 3rd law philosophy, let me get this straight. You think that it demands that you kill people to what? Perpetuate some form of cosmic order?
You're really caught up on this murder thing, aren't you?
Yeah, we're a little caught up.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
What you have to understand is...
God, it feels like this is going on forever, this interrogation, man. It just feels like it's going on for too long. It just feels like we're going on forever with this thing. Almost interminable with how long this
It's a
is.
more complete effect of the butterfly effect.
I don't care about the butterfly effect, dude. This ain't fucking Ashton Kutcher.
When an insect flaps its wings,
I've seen the movie. There's been 3 of them. I know what the butterfly effect is. There's 3 fucking movies. I've seen all 3.
Using that precise logic, all right. Just think what a 40-ton blast of TNT blowing up Sunset Parkway could achieve.
Yes, I know the TNT blew up like Minecraft. Okay.
The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, for all we know, could have created a star system 4 million light years away and we'd be none the wiser. However, that would not negate the fact that if we acted in the here and now, we have agency over cosmic chemistry and order, right?
Too much talking in this scene. Too much trying to explain everything. This is going on for feels like fucking forever. Forever.
And the bigger the outcome.
Forever.
The most beautiful part. Again,
Get to the goddamn point, Age. Shit. God damn it.
You're just some sick fuck with delusions of grandeur and too many fucking matches.
Sorry.
There's something you're absolutely right, Marshall.
I don't mean anything of it. Sorry.
Because I really think that's part of the package. You know what I mean? Okay.
I don't care about your package. I'll look at my package. Shit. Fuck. Shit, fuck. January 12th, 2019. Okay.
The trial of Marcos Rafael Ocasio,
Thank God that scene's over.
the Prophet Bomber, began on January 12th, 2019. He was represented by one of the most prestigious attorneys in the country at the time.
I'm sorry, I just did not like that scene at all. I thought that scene just went on forever. It just felt very pretentious and all the dialogue. It didn't feel natural. I thought the acting wasn't the best in that scene. More so from the 2 Marshall guys. The 2 Marshall guys, the acting when they're trying to be stern wasn't the best.
And he was charged with
I felt like I'm
murder,
acting now,
conspiracy,
so
and terrorism.
I did not like that
200
scene.
victims, 37 of which were
What's with the
killed.
little people? We're gonna play
The judge
chess?
did not spare Ocasio,
Pawns?
sentenced to death.
I ain't playing chess with you. Official courtroom audio.
All right, let us have order.
What is that, British?
Defendant, please rise.
No, that's not British.
Marcos Rafael Ocasio.
We're talking about British. That is not British at all.
Found guilty by a jury of your peers. And for partaking in the absolutely despicable acts in which you have committed, including the cold-blooded slaughter of almost 40 children, I hereby sentence you to death. May God have mercy on your wretched soul.
Who's this? George Washington? God, have mercy on your soul. Your soul is mine. Fucking Shane Soon.
Or any of that. I expected that to come. That was inevitable. But it was what Andrea told me next that really, really hit me in my ears.
He you in the balls?
Andrea had been committed to 3 different mental hospitals over the course of several months. Apparently, she wasn't handling the revelation that her husband was one of the most prolific and dangerous serial killers in modern day history. And I mean, who could blame her, right?
How dare
During
she?
one of these meetings with Marcos, she confessed to self-inducing her last 2 miscarriages. And I believe that this is what led to her ultimate fate.
During the trial, Ocasio and his lawyer were having a rather sordid, steamy affair.
No,
What?
It never went beyond physical attraction between me and Ashley. Yeah, I mean, she was good legal counsel, even though she did, of course, lose my case. But that's another topic for another day. No, it was never anything emotional. You know, I just don't operate that way, as you can tell.
Nice looking lady.
A bit of the edge off, if you will.
Yeah,
But
the edge
apparently
off.
She felt quite differently about things. You know, she started to get real clingy at the end there. Started bringing up all this soulmate nonsense or what have you. And,
That's a really
put
shitty lawyer.
Somebody like me off. I was never there for that in the first place.
Really shitty
Yeah,
lawyer.
she started to become quite obsessed, and it was quite a surprise to somebody even of my caliber that she would carry it as far as she actually did.
No kid.
Ashley Hawkins was from
God damn.
with a personal net worth of $250 million. She went to law school and became a top defense lawyer. However, her life took the wrong turn when she became involved with the Cosby.
Sorry, I'm not looking at her
He
face.
indoctrinated her with the third law philosophy and also the teachings of Michael Desmond Carr.
It would appear as though that Ocasio had a
Sorry.
knack for attracting women with a multitude of personality disorders. Ashley
You
Hawkins,
tell me a girl like that
Ashley Hawkins
couldn't get any
diagnosed
date
with
better than a
obsessive
fucking
personality disorder,
bomber serial
as well as
killer?
being mildly bipolar,
She must be
very
nuts.
similar to his wife. Ashley was drawn to Ocasio and effectively formed her whole world around him during the course of the trial. To say that Ashley Hawkins was in love with Ocasio doesn't even begin to cover it. Her devotion to him was more cult-like than anything else.
After Ocasio's trial and sentencing, Ashley Hawkins quietly resigned her commission and left her own law firm. For the next 8 months or so, she went underground, forming her own pseudo-religious cult. They called themselves the Church of the Third Law, and they worshipped Michael Desmond Carr and Ocasio.
Okay.
She had pulled her followers that had extensive ties to left-wing extremist groups.
That seems like a weird random thing to put in there. The Lord
On his 37th
made a
birthday, Marcus
Church of Law
Ocasio
and
was set to undergo transfer to be put on
left wing
death
little.
row
That seemed
at
really
a
weird. That seemed like out of the
maximum security
blue.
Prison located on Splinter Ridge Island off the coast of South Carolina.
Well, about 4 in the morning, Casio was he was slated to make this trip to Dagger Gate.
Gee, how long is this fucking car drive? I mean, he would have had to tell his story about all the years he's been doing this. Either they asked him that many questions, it was a short car ride, or
Very similar to Casio. Build,
it was like a
height, all
fucking 5-hour car
this guy
ride.
named Gustavo Perez, right? He was enlisted to play a key part in this escape.
Yeah,
The guy looks like he's going to be in sequel to Falling Down with the way he's dressed in that car.
So he would look like
Defense!
Ocasio. Apparently they planned to do some sort of switch on the inside. He was even willing to die for Ocasio because he believed that the third law was bringing him closer to immortality.
Hawkins used her connections to smuggle Perez into the prison. They paid off a corrections officer, and right before the inspections checked, Ocasio and Perez switched places, right when the bus was getting ready to take the prisoners out to Dagger Gate.
No, honestly, I was very impressed with the sophistication and execution of their plan. You know, it was thorough, it was very well thought out, and most importantly, of course, it did work. But I guess the only problem is that, well, no one bothered to even ask me, so I saw that as a bit of an issue.
After the escape, Hawkins and about a dozen other followers speared Ocasio away to a lavish luxury cabin in a remote wooded location on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. And this is where the most unexpected twist of this odyssey occurs.
Well, of course, my time with Ashley, I mean, it was fun, but I felt like she thoroughly outserved her purpose. I don't know, I guess the best way I could put it is this whole thing felt unearned, as weird as that may sound. And I felt like in a deep kind of way, it took away from a more deserving pair, namely the two marshals, Connors and McDaniels. I don't know, it's just, again, weird to say, but it just felt very unearned to me, if that makes any sense. Not to mention, there was a host of absolute freaks and degenerates that were part of the Church of Free Laws or whatever in the world they call themselves. You know, obviously wasn't very important to me. You know, and far be it from me to call someone else a degenerate, but when a serial killer thinks you've gone too far, I think you best start reconsidering the decision.
I kind of like this idea of a killer hating the cult made about him.
That were into the most debauched and hedonistic things you could think of.
A serial killer
Far be
hating
it from me to beat the moral drum, but even
these followers of his. I like that idea.
I was thoroughly disgusted by what I saw.
Well, according to Ocasio, during one of the group's late-night parties, a few nights after the escape, he says he walked down the stairs, stumbled into, for lack of a better term, an orgy. Apparently, that was his breaking point. You know, he retrieved an AR-15 from upstairs amongst one of many weapons in their arsenal.
Jesus.
You know, and he mercilessly gunned down 12 people.
That's an AR-15? That's a weird AR-15.
After the slaughter,
I mean, wait, that's not an AR-15. That's a pistol. That's a situation. I mean, I may not know much about guns, but I know that ain't an AR-15.
But there was something that I needed to take care of first.
That's a rifle, right?
Loose ends needed to be tied up.
No, I'm just making sure. Yeah, that's what I thought. AR rifle, yeah.
Ocasio's actions after his escape are a bit of an anomaly. What convicted serial killer willingly gives up his freedom out of some obligation to the people that captured him, no less? But I suppose that's the unpredictable mind of a psychopath. That's why they're so fascinating to study.
They make to this point where it's like this guy and these two agents. It seems like maybe it should have been like go back and forth between all three of them. Like, see this guy, his beginning, the other guy, his beginning, and like really like how each one of them came from different beginnings, how each one of them had different backgrounds, how each one of them grew up in different ways.
She wasn't long for this world, and yet at the same time,
and really keep that him versus them dynamic throughout it, since it's becoming so important at the end here.
I broke into the house, and even though she was startled to see me, she seemed somehow relieved at the same time. I can't quite describe it. Look, the last thing I wanted to do was cause my wife undue pain, you know. Yes, I was going to take her life, but in the most humane and painless way I thought possible. You know, after a few hours of sitting and talking, she seemed to accept what was about to come. She knew what was going to happen. But the funny thing was, we kind of made a night of it. You know, she dressed in her most beautiful evening gown, hair, makeup, you know, the whole nine. She was just as ravishing as the first day that I had met her. We talked again a little bit more. I put on the record player and we danced to Tomorrow's in Your Kiss by Last Dance. I always remember that was the special song that they had played at our wedding. So we took it from there.
I don't know who this band is, but they spelled tomorrow wrong. Right? That's not how you spell tomorrow, is it? Maybe it is. Wait. No, wait. I swear, like. Okay, let me see something. I'll let it keep playing. Now see something real quick. I can't go back, but I downloaded the video, so I'll go on YouTube and check something real quick. I'm still playing. Was I seeing things?
The night of Ocasio's wife's death, either under duress or coercion, she was forced to swallow a lethal amount of prescription medication, which mirrored his mother's death.
Yeah, they forgot an R.
And gave up his location.
Because it's spelled Tommorow.
You have to understand that we didn't even know he had escaped at this point. You know,
They have 2 M's and 1 R when it's supposed to be 1 M and 2 R's. I mean, if the song is supposed to spell tomorrow wrong, I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, tomorrow is spelled wrong. It's supposed to be 1 M and 2 R's, but this has 2 M's and 1 R, so I don't know.
But at the current moment, I'm standing in mine and my wife's old house. And I'm waiting for you.
So he
You know, that last
killed his wife.
encounter between me and Andrea really proved to me what I had long suspected. That I was actually capable of feeling another emotion for another human being. You know, that I wasn't completely and totally devoid of the things that make us, I don't know, human, whatever you want to call it. And I know it may be very hard for people to believe me, but yes, I truly believe that I did love my wife, regardless of what you may think. You know, I'll never forget that last moment that we had together. She looked me straight in the eyes and she told me she was sorry for everything that had happened. And
She
told me she loved me. So we shared our last kiss and that's it, she was gone.
She
It
kicked
was
you.
the first time that I had ever shed a tear for anyone or anything.
She kicked you in the balls, jumped out the window.
What you will from that.
Whatever, dude. You killed your wife. Shut up. Don't buy your bullshit. You killed your wife. If you love her, you don't kill her. Sorry.
No, I didn't give up.
Yeah, you did.
They may call it giving up. They may call it turning in or throwing in the towel, whatever you want to call it.
You gave up.
No, it wasn't any of that. It just wasn't the right time.
You gave up. Bullshit. I did. You gave up. You called the cops on yourself. You went back to jail. You gave up. Give it up, Buttercup. You gave up. So, cut the bullshit.
This case was incredible. It defined who I was as a cop.
They'll be talking about this case for generations to come. It was a benchmark for crime and forensics.
You know, it boggles my mind that, you know, so many of these so-called heinous killers are themselves afraid or terrified of death. It's just such a conundrum that I can't wrap my mind around. It just doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? I mean, what's the old saying? You live by the sword, you pretty much die by it. That's just the way that the universe goes. You know, that in and of itself is the essence of cosmic order. You know, I don't know when, if, or where, or any of those questions, but I do know one thing. That if the third law is behind it, or that it dictates it, this most certainly is not where it ends. This is not the last you'll see of me, all right? And I'll keep banging on this drum from time immemorial. The third law is everywhere. It dictates everything, you know? I have something right here. It governs something even as inconsequential as a coin flip, and I'll prove it. You know, hell, I'll do you one better. I'll even take the statistical disadvantage. Tails. Well, would you look at that? Tails.
The trick is the coin is both tails. It's a trick coin. You full of shit. I mean, it was okay. It was okay. I mean, I do think the guy who played the bomber, he was the best actor. The others were there. I thought that...
Tell me, Marcos, do you
Oh shit, there's more. But it's subtitled. The three laws make you some kind of a god? Do you think you're above the law? Or sir, above the rest of us? No, doctor. Fat. Quite the opposite. I don't think myself a god. Fat, there's very little that separates someone like you and me. Just the best way to put it is, I'm simply the hamster that knows he's running on the wheel. You understand? And the rest of these self-anger, it's the fucking lemmings. This big picture here, the only thing that separates myself from them is knowledge of the scope. Know what I mean? See, all of us run the race. Alright, I can change my position on the wheel, to speed up, slow down, however I can do. Very little to actually take myself out of the race to begin with. Come to a place, fatalistic acceptance of understanding my place in the cosmic wheel. The question is, doctor, I know my place. Do you know yours? That's the question you gotta ask yourself. He's talked a little bit, so. Oh. Why POD? I love their music. POD, the band, did the music? No, just. Sorry, I see POD. I was thinking of the band from back in the day. So again, as is. Chris, I think it's Chris J. Lara, who did the, who played the bomber. I didn't mind him. And the guy with the glasses and the tie looked like he's ready to be in the sequel to Falling Down in the car. Didn't mind him. The others were okay. And again, it wasn't bad. The story was alright. I think what it is, number one, I thought that the story, like compared to the previous one I saw, there's the Wardsdale mystery, it didn't draw me in as much. I mean, from the beginning we see that he's been caught, so we know it's leading up to that. We didn't get a whole lot of detail on the bombs per se. Like, we just have newspapers that go slowly over, but we don't really get details of each of the bomb scenes to really sell the illusions. I mean, like, again, if it was like fake news broadcasts or audio or something else that really sell each of these rising bits of devastation. It tries to go into the whole, he really wants to think of these two U.S. Marshals as adversaries. But we didn't really get much with those two U.S. Marshals. I mean, they come in fairly late into it. We don't get to know a whole lot. I mean, very briefly their backstory. Even then, like, they worked on it for 6 years, but I barely knew, like, what all they did, other than, you know, there's a couple things, looking at the notes. There's the thing with the one place they kind of figure it out, and then at one point it's like, oh yeah, we've been working on it for 6 years. I'm like, you did? Like that I don't know, it felt like maybe like a bit more back and forth. Maybe a bit more story on the U.S. Marshals, because if it seems like that's the important dynamic, a little bit what's going on in their lives, like how they started, how they began, how they got into this, and kind of this back and forth of good men and good, you know, evil men dynamic between the two. Or to really build up the horror, the disgust, the terror, the blood, the everything in these bombs, to really give the audience a sensation of describing just how horrific these bombings were and all that. Maybe if there were people who were witnesses to some of these bombs and describe it, to really build up each of these bombing moments of how horrific they are, how terrible they are, how devastating they were, to really get the audience like on nerves, like, and angry and emotional, and I did maybe like fake news broadcast or something of that nature. I mean, the bit I liked is that he murdered his own cult mate to worship him. But it's like, it's the AR-15, but then it's a pistol. I thought that was kind of a weird. Just I'm like, AR-15, isn't that a rifle? And it's a pistol. So now my mind is being taken out of the story. Same with, like, the one band, like, tomorrow's misspelled, and I'm like, is that meant to be on purpose? Is that meant to be some irony? I'm like, no, that's misspelled. Okay, yeah, it is misspelled. So now my mind is taken out of it. So little things like that. That interrogation scene, I just thought went on way too long, way too talky, way too trying to espouse exposition of motivation and his line of thinking. It just felt like, this is the old adage, show don't tell. And obviously with a lot of it, because of what it is, there's going to be a lot of telling and not a whole lot of showing, but that just felt like it went on too long. And I thought the other two U.S. Marshals, they did fine in the sit-down interviews here. The acting was a bit less so. So it was okay, but I didn't like it as much as the Warrensdale mystery. I don't think this is bad. I like the idea behind it. I think again it's a good use of limited resources. I do think the guy who plays the bomber, he was the best actor in the group. But the Warrensdale mystery, I thought just a lot more intriguing. I thought it felt like it was better paced. This one felt a bit long in the tooth. But how long was the Warrensdale mystery? Now I think about it. Well, yeah, that was an hour and 6 minutes. So that was an hour and 6 minutes that felt like a good time, good pacing, good. Like, it went. Oh, I didn't know you guys did a commentary for that. I actually have to listen to that sometime. I gotta listen to that commentary. Cool. Very cool. I definitely. Actually, I'm gonna save this. Because I do want to give this a listen to see how this was done. I'd be very curious about that. Sorry about that. Although after this review, or he may be like, fuck this fucking redneck guy. But I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I don't think it's bad at all. I truly don't. Trust me. This is better than the shit I've seen this year in terms of, because it didn't, at least some elements of it was interesting. The whole Newton Law thing gave a little bit of a different twist. Again, the lead guy's acting, I thought it was good. Just certain other things. But overall, and yeah, there we go from there. So take that for you will. Thanks for watching. Take care. Who am I? I don't make movies. I'm a nobody. I'm just an asshole. Just telling the truth. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.